From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and Akashvani, this is Stumped.
Hello and welcome to Stumped, your intercontinental hit of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. I'm Alison Mitchell in London, although this time next week I will be in India. We are taking Stumped out to the opening game of the Women's World Cup in Guwahati. I'll also be travelling down to Mumbai as well, so can't wait for that. Also just noting that USA cricket has been suspended again by the ICC over poor governance. It's not going to affect the team's participation, the men that is, in the T20 World Cup next year, but a massive embarrassment. What with cricket featuring in the LA Olympics in 2028.
Hello, Ali. Brett Sprigg here at the ABC, and you join me on one of our biggest national sporting weekends. It's AFL Grand Final Day on Saturday. There will be a packed crowd at the MCG, 100,000 people at the MCG. It's not the Premier Football Code where I am in Sydney, where the Rugby League Grand Final will take place next weekend. But what it does mean is cricket's just around the corner, of course. Domestic cricket's been underway for a week or so. We've had the visiting under-19s Indian team here featuring Vaibhav Suryavanshi. So as Bill Laurie might have said some years ago, it's all happening.
Spriggy, thank you for sparing the time to join us for a while on Stumped. And Alison, I mean, what's your favourite red? Because we're trying to roll the carpet out here in India for you, so just let us know.
Oh, royal red, obviously.
Well, I'm Shahrukh Sharma for Akashvani. And by the way, I was in Dubai over the last weekend on the day of the big match. But I was there for some football. There's a Super League Kerala football event that I was a part of. But it was all very quiet and happy and friendly in Dubai, where the matches were being held, because, as you know, India and Pakistan have many people there. And there was no real acrimony, because there is plenty otherwise in the media. And I suppose we'll talk a bit about that. But I'm glad to be back home in Bangalore.
Yep, good to see you and great to have you as well, Spriggy, along with us. We will be chatting the Men's Asia Cup. But first on Stumped, we are just a few days away from the start of the ICC Women's Cricket World Cup. And if you've been listening to the show for the last few weeks, you'll know that we've been focusing on each of the 8 teams competing in the competition. And we have saved the hosts, India, until last. Now, despite all the drama that's been happening in the Asia Cup, competing for attention, we wanted to know just how the build-up has been for the host nation. And I've caught up with Indian cricket broadcaster Annesha Ghosh to see how the anticipation is growing in the lead-up.
Thank you so much, Ali, for having me on the show. And indeed, it feels like we've waited for ages for this lead-in week to manifest itself, and also for the tournament to finally happen here in India. The build-up has been a bit of a mixed bag, I must tell you, because on the ground, I am currently speaking to you from my hometown, Calcutta. I was in Delhi, say about 10-15 days ago. And currently, Calcutta, other than what, say, my family, my dad, my brother, they all watch cricket very keenly. And currently, the Men's Asia Cup is going on in the UAE, the Women's ODI series. So other than what they are seeing, or I myself can see on television screens, there is not much promotional activities happening on non-host cities. So there is not a lot of on-ground activation from what I see in Calcutta, but I do know that the ICC Trophy Tour has been happening. It's gone pretty much all around the country, including the host cities, Vizag, Navi Mumbai, Guwahati, Indore. And I have been speaking to a number of friends who are either based there, even in Bengaluru, which, by the way, remember, the M. Chinnaswamy Stadium was initially penciled in by the BCCI to host both these big games and a few others. But we all know what happened in the aftermath of the Royal Challengers Bengaluru men's team winning their inaugural IPL title. And human lives are far more important than any sports event or any musical entertainment events. As a result of that stampede, Bengaluru lost all of the matches, but a number of warm-ups are taking place. So I have a lot of journalist friends, a lot of content friends, broadcast friends out there who are telling me they are seeing a lot of ground activations. So that's really heartening to know that it's coming from a city that was initially supposed to be at the center of the action, so to speak.
And in terms of the fixtures and those stadiums, those regions of India which might not have hosted women's ODIs before, which way do you think that's going to go? Because on the one hand, it could be, well, there's going to be a great appetite because women's cricket has never come to some of these venues. On the other hand, you worry that, well, actually, is the awareness going to be there? What's your sense?
So it's a bit of a mixed bag yet again. It's a double-edged sword to walk from an organizational and logistical perspective. let's face it, that the reason, or as was reported by Indian media, why the BCCI went in with what all happened to be second tier cities. None of these are metropolitan first tier cities. Remember, these cities, as you mentioned, have not hosted a lot of women's matches, let alone a big ICC event or even continental cricket events. But one venue I'm particularly excited about, Alison, is Navi Mumbai. I expect a packed stadium for all the matches in Navi Mumbai, simply because what I've seen there when I was working with FIFA in October 2022 at the FIFA Under 17 Women's World Cup. Absolutely chock-a-block. As for Vizag, Guwahati, and Indore, Guwahati had hosted a few matches against England. So England versus India was fairly well attended again a few years ago. In the post 2017 World Cup was a breakout campaign for India, and it marked a tectonic shift for how women's cricket in India is perceived. And that tournament was right up there, and it remains a reference point when we talk about women's cricket in India. Since then, Guwahati has been one of the venues that has hosted a few women's matches, the others not so much. But I do expect the on-ground activations that are taking place will play some part in engendering some sort of an enthusiasm and curiosity about women's cricket, because India as a country loves cricket in any form or manner. So the BCCI can take a leaf out of what the WPL did. It's the same board after all, right? And it's the same people running the administration. I think we'll have a good sort of turnout across the board for all matches.
I was at the 2013 Women's World Cup in India, commentated on that, and I'm so excited to see how the shift, is from 2013, having then also commentated that final in 2017, and through now to where Indian cricket is for women, with the launch of the WPL in between times. Just on tickets, they only went live at the beginning of this month. Do you think that matters? They do seem to be like I believe they are the most affordable tickets for a global ICC event ever. Is there enough notice to get people into the grounds?
There have been cases, and I do have friends from Australia reaching out. They had made a few plans in terms of traveling early enough from Game 1 of Australia's, but they've had to tweak those plans because of the somewhat late announcement of the tickets. It always has an impact, because when you're touring a nation that is outside of your continent, you have to make those plans well in advance. Sure, it's not a same scenario like the 2023 Men's ODI World Cup, remember, which India hosted again. And I remember the kind of chaos that ensued on the sidelines in terms of hotels spiking their rates overnight, cancelling just because it was about to host an India final against Australia. So it won't be the same situation, largely because, unfortunately, despite everything that the WPL has done or everything the women cricketers in India are doing, women's cricket still doesn't enjoy the same stature in the country, the same following as their men's counterparts, or even men's cricket at large. So I don't see people scrambling for tickets really in India especially, but it always helps when overseas potential spectators have enough time to chalk out their plans and execute them in terms of planning and logistics. So yes, it could have been done slightly better, but now that we are here, and now that the tickets have been released at as low a price as close to $1, 100 rupees, Indian rupees, I think there's a reason for everyone, no matter which city they are in, to go watch some women's cricket. And who knows, some of them might fall in love with the sport, the women's game, especially, forever. I am putting my money on not just Navi Mumbai, but also the Indian women's cricket team to do so good that they at least reach the final and spice things up.
So what about the form of the India team? And Smriti Mandana, we know about her form. She just did a 50-ball 100 in Delhi in that incredible match, the ODI, albeit India losing the series to Australia, but nearly 400 runs were scored. So what of the form of the India team? And also, the track of Delhi, how many runs will we expect in, Guwahati, Navi Mumbai? A lot of people think, spin will dominate this World Cup. What's your take?
Well, first off, Alison, thank God, or maybe not thank you, God, that Delhi is not hosting a women's Cup, because that looked more of a road than a cricket pitch, really, simply going by how many runs it churnched out and how difficult it was for bowlers to defend anything across both sides. In terms of the Indian women's cricket team's form, they've had a fairly good run and a solid number of matches under their belt coming into this tournament. If we look back at December 2024, January 2025, they played home series against West Indies and Ireland. Harleen Deol, who is now India's definite number 3, or so we understand, unless they spring a surprise in the World Cup, got her first international century against West Indies in Vadodara in December 2024. Come January, Jemima Rodrigues, such a key linchpin in India's batting, made her first international one-day century. And since then, India have gone on to make good on their promise of having a lot of superstars in their batting lineup. Smriti Mandhana, the ICC Women's ODI Cricketer of the Year and the ICC Women's Leading Cricketer of the Year for Wisden 2024, has continued taking her game to a different level altogether. If you look at Smriti, she has opened up her leg side play. She used to be that offside ballerina, sure, but she's now taken on a completely different avatar when it comes to scoring those big shots. And even the 6 that took her to that milestone of scoring 100 runs at the fastest clip ever by an Indian man or woman. Make no mistake, she even bettered Virat Kohli's record that came off just 52 balls. So she bettered it by 2 deliveries, and that record had come also against Australia in 2013. So 12 years later, another jersey number 18 doing what an ODI great in jersey number 18 has done. So I see India having every single reason to back themselves to go the distance. If there is only one chink in the armor, it would be their fielding.
Annesha, great to have you on Stumped. Enjoy the tournament, and hopefully we'll catch up when we're out there as well at some stage.
Absolutely, Ali. Thank you very much for having me.
From the BBC World Service, this is Stumped on Akashvani.
Now, finally on Stumped, after both sides progressed to the Super 4 stages of the Asia Cup, India and Pakistan met for a second time during the tournament. And just like the first match, India won, this time by 6 wickets, still no handshakes. The captains didn't really acknowledge each other at the toss, and there were a series of heated flashpoints during the run chase as well, most notably when the umpire had to step in between India opener Abhishek Sharma and Pakistan bowler Haris Rauf. It's now reported that both the BCCI and PCB have put in official complaints to the ICC about each other. The PCB about India captain Suryakumar Yadav deliberately taking the mic from the presenter at the post-match ceremony and referencing the Pahalgam attacks, comments that the PCB say were political. The BCCI have complained about Pakistan batter Farhan celebrating his 50 by pretending his bat was a rifle, firing shots into the air in their second meeting. There's also the gestures that Haris Rauf made to the crowd as well. Brett, let me come to you first on this one. You are our neutral observer. Tensions, are clearly very high. What have you been making to it all?
Usually, no matter what's happening, the cricketers tend to be above that a little bit, and there's still great camaraderie and mutual respect between those teams on the field. And yet that seems to have dissipated now, which is really sad. You mentioned the Sahibzada Farhan celebration, if you like, with the pretend gunfire. Haris Rauf gesturing 6-0 to the crowd, allegedly in reference to a Pakistani claim of shooting down 6 Indian fighter jets. Yeah, it's really unfortunate, and I don't want to afford the moral high ground to either side here. You mentioned there's a process to play out here with those formal complaints. We say it's not as simple as, keep politics out of sport. Often sport reflects broader life, and it's hard to avoid. It's just the ICC want to capitalise on this rivalry between India and Pakistan, which is bigger than cricket. They ensure that these teams meet at least twice during major tournaments. They'd be wise to really try and figure out how to deal with this so that these escalations don't continue. I mean, we call it a gentleman's game. It's not always the case. We don't like to see scenes like that. So I hope they can clean this up.
If we talk about the cricket, we've had Suryakumar Yadav say, well, Pakistan aren't a true rival anymore. I mean, this is purely talking about the scale of the differences in the results that we've been seeing of late. Does he have a fair point?
Statistically, without question, because India's been winning much more than losing to Pakistan. So I'm afraid Pakistan continues to be in a little bit of cricketing disarray in terms of standard, and are not favoured to win against India, and therefore the importance of these matches in terms of the quality of cricket maybe certainly has a point. But just to go back to the other point you mentioned earlier about tennis players, well, they're individuals and they play the tour as individual professionals. But Spriggy's right in that, the ICC, ACC, and the two boards need to really figure out very quickly that if we are playing together, what are the protocols? And I can take you back to 1999 when there was a very storied military aggression, and there were all sorts of counters from India. 1999, there was a Kargil skirmish, more than a skirmish, and India played a series thereafter, or one of the World Cups, and it was all much more civil, despite the fact that there was an enormous amount of military activity before that. And Pahalgam, well, we obviously, are once again very concerned about that whole episode, and our hearts, condolences once again go to those who were affected, but isn't quite an open military conflict. And yet now, maybe because of the media and other expectations, there's much more attrition on the field between the two teams. So it's all kind of disintegrating a bit. And perhaps it's time for the two boards and, of course, the ICC and ACC sit down and say, well, what protocol would we insist on the field, rather than people, going off in all sorts of tangents on their own or pushed by, forces beyond their control.
Brett, when we go back to the cricketing side of things, we've had the Pakistan team lodging a complaint to the ICC about the TV umpire, the Sri Lankan Palya Garuga, after a caught behind decision that was involving Fakhar Zaman. Is every decision going to start coming under the microscope here?
Yeah, and it sort of goes back to, they also tried to have Andy Pycroft removed as match referee after the way he didn't handle the first handshake drama. So they've had a bit of a face-off here, the PCB and the ICC. For what it's worth, I thought this particular incident looked like Sanju Sampson claimed the catch cleanly on one angle and then not so on another angle. So I don't envy umpires and third umpires in these situations. Maybe it is just as such that in games of high stakes and high tension and all the other sort of things going on, everything is more scrutinised, Ali, and it's as simple as that.
Well, that's all we've got time for on this week's Stumped for Akash Varney. I'll be with you from India next week at Guwahati and Mumbai. Don't forget, you can follow us on X. We're at BBCWS Sports and use the hashtag BBC Stumped. And check us out on YouTube as well by going to the BBC World Service YouTube. My thanks to Charu Sharma, Brett Sprigg, and to all of you for listening. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Stumped is a BBC Sport production for the BBC World Service in association with ABC and Akashvani.